Yo, what's up guys? It's Fodge here, and I am back with another Draft League video, finally. The most recent one I uploaded was quite a bit late, and this one is a little bit too, so I apologize, but it's just been very hectic lately. And I'm looking forward to finally having the time to jump back into this. So, welcome. This is going to be Catch These Hands Battle League, CTHBL, Season 2 now. So brand new team, brand new format, sorta kinda. It's low tier draft league, not dex tier again. Open Terra this time, so we don't necessarily restrict our Terra captains to a certain amount of types. We just choose which 2 to 3 mons we want to make a Terra captain, and then we can terrestrialize it into any type each week. But of course, our opponent will be made aware of what type we're bringing right as the battle begins. So cool format. Really looking forward to it. And I guess, spoiler alert, this is post-commentated for week 1, just because my schedule has been so tight recently. From now on out, though, the games should, I'm not going to make any promises, but should be live commentary for the rest of the season. That's my goal, at least. Obviously, if something comes up, I will do the post-commentary instead, just to make sure we don't have many holes in our content here. But I did have to do post-com this week just because of my hectic schedule lately. But since I have not made a video about this team yet, I wanted to first talk about what I drafted. So since this is low tier, I believe our highest valued mons were priced at about 20 points. And the way the terrestrialization works is that each Pokemon has what's called the Terra tax. Well, each Pokemon that can Terra, I don't believe anything that was above 12 points could Terra, but every Mon that was 12 points and below, maybe with like a couple exceptions, but pretty much every Mon that was 12 points and below can Terra, and each of them have like a higher price that you would have to pay for them as a Terra captain as opposed to just the Pokemon itself. So to run down through my team here, I first picked Empoleon just because it's a really good jack of all trades. It's the only water steel type in the franchise. Gets access to pivoting, healing, hazards, defog, right, as hazard removal. Really good ability in competitive, which is really nice because that kind of punishes enemy defogs, which is something I really wanted in my draft after seeing quite a lot of Defiant and competitive users in my previous seasons. That kind of made my hazard removal life a little more challenging. So really happy overall with Empoleon. I then second picked Flygon, because I feel like in low tier format this thing could do a lot of work. Secondly though, its type chart alongside Empoleon looks amazing, right? You think of Empoleon's weaknesses: electric, ground, and fighting. Flygon's immune to 2 of those. Doesn't particularly help with the fighting, but that's okay. And then, right, Flygon's quad weak to ice, Empoleon quad resists that. Flygon's weak to dragon, Empoleon resists it. Flygon's weak to fairy, Empoleon resists it. So just a really nice duo typing-wise that was strong to open up with my draft with. Third, I picked up Comfey, completing that Steel Dragon Fairy core. Very good Mon, has access to priority, despite it not actually having any priority moves, because of its ability triage. So I'm able to hit stuff with very strong priority moves, such as something like Draining Kiss, which is base 50 power and heals me in its stab, right? Or Giga Drain, which is base 75 power for a priority move, which is up there almost with Extreme Speed, and it heals me. Another Defogger, another Pivoter. I guess same thing with Flygon, right? Another Defogger, another Pivoter. Flygon also gets Rocks, so really having this capability with these top 3 mons to fulfill several different roles and pivot between them really quickly, which is especially nice for a core that, you know, I'm likely to bring in a lot of games since they're my some of my highest point mons, right? Fourth pick, I went for Eldegoss, a little bit of a lower point mon here, but I thought it was extremely valuable, just having a grass type, right, working towards that second very important type core of water, grass, and fire. Regenerator mon with Rapid Spin with some good utility moves. Really think that 6 points for this thing was kind of a steal, so I decided to go for it. Then I kind of went into some more direction with my draft. I kind of wanted to draft a sand team, especially with what I started off with, right? Empoleon's immune to Sandstorm, Flygon's immune to Sandstorm, Eldegoss, yeah, it's going to get chipped, but Regenerator, keeps it kind of healthy. And I'm like, I could kind of go with a Sandstorm team here, because there's several good mons in that Terra Captain point range, such as Houndstone, which I ended up picking up, or Stoutland, which I was very strongly considering as well, that could kind of cook under the sand. So I was like, alright, let's pick Gigalith. Gen 5 Pokemon, Gen 5 is my favorite region, so, something that I'm really excited to use, and something that I really haven't gotten the chance to use before. And that's another thing too, by the way, with how I draft. I really like to try and pick stuff that I've kind of been meaning to use for a while, but never really had the chance to. And so Gigalith, it's fairly one-dimensional. There's not too many things you could do with his sets, but he's good at what he does, right? He sets up the sand, and he has another good ability in Sturdy, so you don't even necessarily need to bring Sandstream every week. But insanely high attack, insanely high defense, right? His Stone Edges, his Earthquakes, he can Iron Defense Body Press, that hits hard, and another Stealth Rock setter for the team. So, very good mon here. Houndstone, what's nice about it is that it's not just a Sand Rush Sweeper. You can run it like one, or you can run it as a very physically defensive wall with Fluffy, which is good, right? Because you can kind of fake out your opponent. I did bring my Gigalith and my Houndstone, so is he actually Sandstream? Turns out I'm Fluffy sometimes, right? So some good capability uses of his sets here, which is good. He is one of my Terra Captains. Again, it's Open Terra, so I can choose to make that whatever type I wish every week. Same with Pyroar. Pyroar here I picked because I really needed a good speed tier and some good special attackers on my team, because I was, most of my team was fairly physical up to this point. And it's also completing that Fire, Grass, Water core. I also kind of like having a normal type on my team just to switch into potential, strong Shadow Ball mons. Pyro's pretty good. Unfortunately, it's kind of down on ability most weeks, just because they decided to give this thing Moxie for some reason as a special attacker, but it's okay. Very respectable 106 base speed in low tier. Pretty good special attack. With Terra, it has good enough coverage to do quite a bit of work in most matchups. Scyther, honestly, kind of a steal of a mon for 9 points in my opinion. For those of you who don't know, this thing is the same base stat total as his evolution Scizor, but he just has more of it invested into speed and a worse typing, to be honest with you, defensively anyway. But still, right, he can abuse the Eviolite having effectively a higher base stat total than Scizor, and he hits almost just as hard, and he's a lot faster. Right, still able to abuse that Technician with moves like Bug Bite or Dual Wing Beat. Also a good Pursuit Trapper, gets Quick Attack for priority, and is another defogger for my team. Another fast pivot as well, which is kind of what I was shooting for. I kind of wanted to dig into the Sandstorm team theme here a little bit more. So I was looking for another Terra Captain that could abuse the Sandstorm. And so I was looking into Sand Rush mons, and I was kind of running out of them, especially with the point budget that I had left at this point. And then so I started looking into Sand Force mons, which for those of you who don't know is similar to Sand Rush in the sense that it makes you immune to Sandstorm regardless of what type you are. But instead of a speed boost, it actually buffs up Ground, Rock, and Steel type moves by 1.3 times, I believe, in power. And Probopass gets that ability, so I said, why not? 7 points. With Terra, it was 9 points total. Open Terra, Probopass is really, really tanky. It has a couple setup moves, has Pain Split to heal up, and, maybe I can go for some sort of offensive set with the Sand Force and actually put out some pretty surprising damage for a Probopass, so I figured I would try it out. At this point, I had 6 points left, Needed to hit a couple types. Really needed a poison type, grounded poison type, just to get rid of toxic spikes, make opponents think about bringing it a little more against me, right? I know it's a Whirlipede, but you know, having a grounded poison type over not having one at all makes opponents think twice a little bit before bringing toxic spikes. And to be honest, this Whirlipede isn't even that bad, right? It gets toxic spikes itself. It's a spike setter for my team. Much like Scolipede, it gets speed boost, so even though it's only base 47 speed, let it sit around on the field for a couple turns and it can get pretty fast and disruptive. Pretty high defenses as well, so holding the Eviolite could be able to take a couple hits. So I figured I'd give it a try. Again, another Gen 5 Pokemon that I've never really had the chance to use competitively, so that was the idea there. And finally, I wanted a Dark type. I find Dark type offensively very good, and Ghost types are always a problem, so just having that extra option to potentially switch into a strong Ghost move is something that I really wanted here. I had a couple options. I think Absol was one of them, Mightyena, which I ended up drafting at 4 points, and there was something else, maybe like a Alolan Raticate, I want to say. And I ended up deciding that Mightyena was the most versatile one in terms of base stat total, and I liked his abilities the best. Gets Intimidate, another Moxie Pokemon as well, so could potentially, right, again, it's low tier, so this mon has higher potential than in any other format, so who knows, maybe I'll get a Mightyena sweep of some sort. So yeah, that's the team I drafted. I just wanted to run through that since it's my first video of Season 2 CTHBL, so just to get you guys familiar with the team. In terms of my Week 1 matchup, again, this is post-commentary, but this is what the matchup looked like. I was playing against Chaos Week 1, and as you guys can probably tell, this is a weather war, but it gets a little bit complicated because, yes, he has a rain team, and I have a sand team, and he's got some good Swift Swimmer potential with Beartick, Hisuian Quillfish, and Terra Ludicolo. Kilowattrel's also very good in the rain, right? Being able to take advantage of it and hit 100% accurate Thunders and 100% accurate Hurricanes. But furthermore, another wrench in my plans, right, to fight him with weather is that Sandslash, who is a Sand Rush user, right? So I have to be careful about setting my own weather because he also has a Pokemon that can abuse my weather. So this is a very tricky and kind of scary team to prep against. This is what I ended up falling on for my final build. I ended up going with an Empoleon. This was going to be my dedicated lead because, as you can see, he's got 3 potential Eviolite holders, so I wanted to spam knockoff against his team. Regardless, right, like I can get a Damp Rock off of the Politoed, make his rain last fewer turns, knock off 3 Eviolites, right, potentially knock off some damage items on these scary Swift Swimmers as well. So knockoff spam was very free and valuable for me, just to catch some switch-ins. But otherwise, a very specially offensive Empoleon set with Surf and Ice Beam, because especially in the rain, Surf actually does very good damage against the enemy's team. Especially if he brought Ludicolo after the Ludicolo Terra'd into something that wasn't Water Grass, like that Surf is very free. And Roost just to keep me around for a little while longer because I have a lot of HP, so not the squishiest Empoleon either. I have a Wakanberry because I could live if the Kilowattrel got greedy, a Thunder, a Choice Specs Thunder even, and one-shot it back with an Ice Beam. So that was the goal with that item choice. Flygon was one of my win conditions this game. With these 3 moves, Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Crunch, pretty much just hits everything on his team and sweeps in the end game with a Dragon Dancer too. I got Clear Amulet on him just purely for his Intimidators, because he got 2 potential Intimidators in Quillfish and Mawile, so just to be immune to the Intimidates if he was trying to pivot around and slow my sweep down. He won't be able to do that. Eldegoss with the Assault Vest here is built to wall Ludicolo and Politoed if they start to get scary in the rain. So point here was Giga Drain for the Politoed, Pollen Puff for the Ludicolo if he didn't Terra. If he did Terra into something else, then hopefully I would have something to hit it. And Weather Ball I thought would be kind of fun to throw on there because it could either be a rock type move if I had my sand up, or a water type move if the enemy had his rain up, so that could kind of catch things off guard. And Eldegoss is my dedicated rapid spinner this week. Next, I did bring sand, so I did attempt to counter the weather a little bit just to, screw up his Swift Swimmers a little bit. I am very scared of the Sand Slash, though. That is probably the thing I'm most scared of, because I don't have too much to check it. Citrus Berry Gigalith, specially defensive, so that this is actually going to be mainly my Kilowatt roll check. Citrus Berry, so I can have a little more longevity. Stone Edge, Earthquake, just strong, rock and ground type attacks are really good into his team. Rest, again, for longevity. I don't have any means to wake him up, but this is purely just to kind of keep him healthy, keep being able to bring Gigalith in, set the weather again, take another hit from Kilowattrel even though I may be sleeping. And Stealth Rock is going to be my dedicated rocker for the week. Houndstone, here's an example of the setup, or the fake out. I am bringing sand, but not Sand Rush Houndstone. I brought a physically defensive, Terra-fighting, fluffy Houndstone with boots to combat the Sand Slash. The problem is with Fluffy is that if the moves do not make contact, they kind of bypass Fluffy, right? So I don't get that 1.5 times defense boost if it's not a contact move. So Earthquake still really hurts, depending on the spread. But this was mainly here as my Sand Slash check, in an attempt to perhaps burn it. I could do some Terra fighting body press shenanigans and do quite a bit of damage to his team, because I don't think he appreciates fighting type attacks in general. And finally, my Pyroar, despite it being a rain team, if I can win the Weather War, right, I have my Gigalith still alive and I managed to kill his Politoed. Fire type moves are very, very good against this team, actually. So this Choice Scarfed, max special attack, Overheat Flamethrower, Terra Fire, right? Remember, this is one of my Terra captains. Pyroar cleans up the game if I can win that Weather War. So that was the idea in my team building. And let's move right on over to the game again. Sorry, this is post-commentary. As I'm recording this, actually, I'm about to play my Week 2 game, so I will make sure to live commentate that one for you guys. But let's get right into it. So, as I said, I'm going to lead Empoleon, and my opponent is going to lead Kilowattrel. So, a few things to note. Unfortunately, with the command we need to type in for this game format, we don't see the Pokemon silhouettes here. But what he did end up bringing was actually all 3 EV-Light users. So, first of all, that tells me that Knockoff is very spammable right off the get-go. But his only Terra Captain that he actually brought was that Scary Sand Slash, and it's Terra Ice. Okay, so just some housekeeping to begin with. Now, he ends up leading Kilowattrel into my Empoleon, and so I do have that Wakan Berry, so I was kind of hoping he would get greedy here with the Thunderbolt or the Thunder and stay in. And so I just went for proc my Wakan Berry and fire off an Ice Beam right away. He goes into Hatchram. I kind of deduced that he can't do too much to me, so I'm going to fire off a Knockoff here. Sure enough, he isn't able to do too much to me. He just clicks Nuzzle and paralyzes my Empoleon, which isn't really a big deal because I'm not that fast anyway. I'm going to take this opportunity to get my health back up to full, and again, I'm going to spam Knockoff, right, because Knockoff, I believe, at that percentage would have killed the Hatchram, and if he switches out, I am guaranteed to get something out of the turn. Very lucky, actually, that he switches into one of his other EV-Light users, and I get that off as well. I decide at this point that I'm going to stay in, because I don't really know what this Dusclops wants to do against me either, so I'm just going to fire off a Surf. He decides to substitute, and I break it. That's a really interesting set here. I'm kind of scared to see what would have happened if that thing got going with a Power Punch, but I am able to take it down with a Surf. Now he brings out the Scary Sand Slash. Obviously don't really want to stay in on it, so I'm going to go into my dedicated Sand Slash switch in, which is the Houndstone, and as you can see, Adamant Nature, Life Orb, not using a contact move, so Fluffy does not reduce the damage, and my dedicated Sand Slash check takes a bunch of damage from it, so not great, but I'm going to try and Pain Split to get some health back up there, right? Because if he stayed and hit me again with it, I would have healed a lot and done a lot of damage to him. He's going to crunch me here while I get the Will-O-Wisp, so physical attack and Quillfish crippled quite a bit here. I want to keep my Houndstone's HP pretty high, so I'm going to go into my Paralyzed Empoleon to deal with this. One thing to note here, did not bring the Whirlipede, so he is trying to set up Toxic Spikes against me. You know, on paper you might think it's good, right? But I do have a Steel-type Empoleon that's immune, a Levitating Flygon that's immune, my Houndstone is Boots, so I don't really care. My Gigalith has Rest, so I don't really care. Pyroar is my Scarfer that I'm only going to really bring in the late game anyway, so it's not really a big deal, and Eldegoss is my Rapid Spinner, right? So Eldegoss is really the thing. Eldegoss and I guess Gigalith without resting are the two things that are really going to get hit by that the most. So contrary to what it might look like on paper, I don't know that Toxic Spikes was the best bring here. I'm just going to click Surf, again, really high special attacking Empoleon. Nothing really wants to take a Surf, right? Politoed probably takes it best, but then again he also sets up the rain to boost my Surf damage. And so I'm just going to pick up the kill here with the combination of Knockoff and the Burn. So Quillfish goes down, I'm up 6-4. Kilowattrel comes in now, and I decide it's the best course of action to just sack this Empoleon at this point because it's done its job. He's going to Volt Switch out into the Hatchram. I'm going to go into Flygon because it's really my best means of revenge killing it. I'm going to Dragon Claw, which freaked some people out watching this, I know, because Hatchram's actually just pure Psychic. It's only when it evolves into Hatterene that it becomes a Fairy type. So, fun fact. And I clicked Dragon Claw over Earthquake just in case he went into like Kilowattrel or something. So I pick up my third kill of the game. All three of his Eviolite users had been knocked off and killed. And again, he goes into the Sand Slash, which I know is Terra Ice, so I have to swap out. Once again, Terra Blast, also not a contact move, so does a lot of damage to me. I didn't really consider this too much in calcs, to be honest with you, because when I was team building, I was doing some calcs. One thing I did calc quite a bit was like how much damage would a strong Sand Slash knockoff do, and it was actually doing less, despite it being super effective, and despite me holding an item that isn't like Colbur Berry or something, it's actually doing less damage than something like this Terra Blast or Earthquake was, which is kind of crazy. So I figured like knockoff would probably be the strongest move he would have for me, but in reality it's just these non-contact stab moves that are really doing me in here. So my supposed Sand Slash check is very low now. I'm kind of surprised he didn't just take the kill here, seeing as he's seen Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split out of me before, and had a lot of information about my EV spread if he did some calcs. So I'll take this though, free damage on the Kilowattrel and potentially being able to keep my Houndstone alive for another couple of hits. I decided to just stay in here because I kind of don't want to set up Sand for his Sand Slash. Was my main reason, right? I did say that the Gigalith was the dedicated Kilowattrel switch in, but at the same time it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I bring this in, then Sand Slash becomes a lot more threatening, while my Sand Slash check is low. So I decided to try and stall bringing Gigalith in as long as I possibly could. Alright, so now I go into Flygon and attempt to kill this, and a wrench gets thrown into my plans here. This Tailwind made the game so much scarier. The original plan was just going to be to kill this thing with the Flygon, hit Sand Slash with something and sack the Flygon because I would be faster than it, or switch out on the Politoed. But this Tailwind means that the scary Terra Ice Sand Slash is already faster than my Flygon now, and so now I kind of have to scramble. So I decided my best course of action is to sack this Flygon at this point. It's done its job, and the whole game essentially comes down to this turn, right? I did calcs. Earthquake from the Sand Slash does something like 96% max to this Gigalith, right? Without crit, so I need to dodge a crit, one thing. And I need to hit my 80% accurate Stone Edge, is the other condition. Those of you who have watched my BBL, or Bun Bun Draft League finals, know that I don't hit moves very often. So, need to dodge a crit and hit a Stone Edge. So let's see what happens. Gigalith gets poisoned too, right? So doesn't really have a second chance after this turn. The Earthquake does 95%. And I hit my Stone Edge. Okay, so now I feel comfortable that the game is good. And I can kind of be an ass and play for differential here because Politoed comes in. I still have my dedicated Politoed check at 100% HP. So I just go into the Eldegoss, takes practically nothing from the Surf. This Politoed actually turned out to be Scarfed, Chaos told me, so he's locked into Surf for the rest of the game. And I can just click Giga Drain, do over 50%, heal up a bunch. Not going to die to this next Surf, and I am going to be able to close out Chaos for a 3-0 victory in Week 1 against the Scary Rain team with the Sandrush Sandslash. So, honestly, it was a very good game, despite me winning by 3 Pokemon on the dock, right, technically. This game really came down to one turn because if Sandslash did crit that Earthquake, or if I did miss that Stone Edge, my Gigalith would be dead the next turn. Now Sand's up for the remainder of the battle. He'll outspeed my Scarf Pyroar, one-shot it with Earthquake. He'll outspeed my Eldegoss, which is specially defensive, and one-shot it with the Terra Blast Ice. So honestly, that Sandslash was an extremely good game, or a good bring. This was an extremely good game. I think it was closer than people may give it credit for. And yeah, extremely well played to Chaos. Gave me a great challenge there, and it was a great way to start the season. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I'll be working on my Week 2 battle against Blue Fusion right after I record this, so expect to see that coming out soon. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.